tell the story of the Lee families. They have been here 34 years. 34 years working, living, every tree, everything on this block, they have feelings for them. They care a lot. And it's not right to get people out of here. The owners, they keep evicting people. This is not the first time. And they make money out of people suffering. That's immoral, and we could not allow that to continue. In where I live, in the North Beach area, evictions has been tripled the past year. So I see this as an epidemic, something that we all care about. It's not only for this family, but the owners not caring for human suffering. That's what we want to awake the conscience of people who are evicting people. We have to do something. And now we have to do it all the time, keep going until we reach the victory that no eviction in San Francisco anymore.
All the people who are doing civil disobedience up on the steps. All right, thank you. And people who are not doing civil disobedience to move away from the front of the building.
Hell no!
We're going to make them arrest us, and hopefully we can back off. For people who want to participate in the civil disobedience aspect, we will ask you to wear an orange sticker so that we'll know who you are. And when we see that the sheriff is coming, we will we will alert people that the sheriff is coming, and at that point, we will need all the people who are being arrested to move onto the steps as quickly as possible, and for people who do not want to be arrested to move away from the front of the building, to be across the street if you definitely want to be safe, but don't be in front of the steps. And anyone who wants to get arrested at the last minute is more than welcome. The more of us that can pledge to stop this eviction, the better a chance we have.
Been taking a lot of leadership from CCDC, the Chinatown Community Development Center, the Community Tenants Association. So I just wanted to point out why everyone is here, and that this is really a shameful crisis in our city, right? This is a so-called progressive San Francisco that is going to be evicting a family that has been living in San Francisco, working, raising their children for 30 years. We know that Ellis evictions have doubled since last year. Boo. This is the call and response we like. So we know, because people keep asking, it's like, oh, well, why are we getting arrested? Why? Why do we need to go to this extreme measure? And it's because this crisis has elevated to this level. We have tried everything, and this is our last resort to form this eviction defense and blockade to save Mrs. Lee. Am I correct? We know in the movement, even though there's crisis and there's repression, we also know repression breeds resistance. That's why we're here today, right? And we have people who are laying their lives down, their bodies on the line. We have Mrs. Lee. We have elected officials. We've got union leaders, which is going to be Supervisor Jane Kim, who's been a fighter for tenants and workers across the city.
How many of you know Mother Jones, who is sitting next to me? Mother Jones is a District 6 resident. She lives on 6th Street at the Ramon Hotel. And when I sat down next to her, she said, "It is a beautiful day to get arrested." So I represent another district south of here, but I just want to say how amazing it is to see our residents, our neighbors in the Tenderloin and the South of Market here to support Mrs. Lee here in Polk Gulch and Chinatown supporting District 3. And we're all here for the Lee family, a senior couple that has lived in this building for 34 years, taking care of their disabled daughter who depends on the services that the city provides them. And we're here for their family. We're here for Mrs. Lee, who's standing with us today, who said, I am ready to get arrested for my home and for my life. But we're also here because we know it's much more than about the Lee family. How many families and seniors have already been evicted? How many of you in this crowd are worried that you may get evicted here in this city? How many of you are worried about eviction? It's more than just the Lee family. It's about those that have been unjustly evicted, and many more that we know is here to come, which this map illustrates here. The Ellis Act eviction was not meant for this purpose, but real estate speculators have figured out a pathway, a backdoor way to get out of the rental business. It used to be, this minor form where truly landlords were getting out. Now they've figured out a way to gamble on our lives, our homes, in order to make a greater profit here in the city. And we know it's more than about losing your home. For people that have lost their home, you've seen it. People get sick. There is mental illnesses, people end up in our shelter system, and then we complain that we have to pay for the services that these landlords cause in our city. But finally, I just want to say, many people ask, and reporters have asked, but the law is not on your side. The landlord can legally evict the tenants based on the Ellis Act, and that is true. But when policymakers and politicians and the law have not been able to protect the community comes out to protect the community, and that is why we are here. And for every family we have lost, every senior that we have lost, we have also won. Whether it was 665 Clay Street in Chinatown, whether it was Mr. Choi, who was a community leader on the 1300 block of Grand Street, we have won in the past. And we can win again today, not because of any law that's on our side, because we are here standing together across the city of San Francisco to say, no, no more. We will stand up for the Lee family, and we will come back again when you evict another one of us here in this crowd. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause for Mrs. Lee for her courageous stand.
Great. I am Mrs. Lee, and I am living here, and I'm the one being evicted today.
好感激大家百忙中嚟到參加呢個集會，我非常感動。
I feel so loved. I feel so energized seeing all the people here today.
希望借助今日嘅集會，可以反映到市政府或者市議員關注呢個逼遷嘅問題。
I hope through the actions of today, through the rally, through the movement building, that we get the attention of the supervisors, get the attention of the city to act and to address this eviction epidemic.
因為逼遷呢啲問題咧，即係有好多嗰啲老弱殘障有嗰啲低收入家庭嗰啲人即係租唔起，因為三藩市嗰啲租咧，好似火箭咁飆升，實在冇辦法租。
Because as you know, a lot of times when we think about Ellis Act and who evictions affect, they affect those that are low income, the poor. It affects people of color. It affects seniors, the disabled. And we need to think about that in also the sky-high rocket rent that has been increasing in our city.
希望藉著呢個集會可以反映到即係三藩市啲老人屋咧就供不應求㗎。
I hope also through this action too that we recognize that there's not enough affordable housing for seniors in the city.
He's been in the movement for a very long time, knowing that the community and labor are actually really the same people. So let's give him a round of applause.
So, speculation on people's misery is wrong any way you look at it. And for the city to be an accomplice in this incredible injustice is doubly wrong. We need to convey not just to the state, which has ultimate authority over the question of Ellis Act, but we need to start here in the city, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, district by district, to retake this city so that working people can live here. Working people's organizations like unions work full-time trying to raise the standard by improving their health care and their benefits in other areas like pensions and wages, but none of that makes a difference in the world if people don't have the employment security they need and the housing security that they need. This is about security, whether you happen to be on the job or happen to be living in a home that you've lived in for 30 years. It is condemnable. It is absolutely shameful that the city should be connected to this. We demand that the sheriff's office put this eviction off, and we stand in solidarity with the Lees and any other families that are facing this kind of injustice.
Hello everyone, my name is Omar Klimbas. I'm with Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Asian Law Caucus. Over a year ago, several households from this property came to our office. They were concerned. There was a new owner, just purchased the property in January 2012. The owner wanted to buy out the tenants and have them move out. They didn't know what to do. We represented 6 of the households, including the Lee family. All of them understood the law was tilted towards the owner, that the law was tilted towards this new investor that basically, from the get-go, understood everyone living here was going to be removed and have the place converted to market rate residences. So we represented the families. In fact, we represent many of these families, and there's many in the legal community that are taking on this cause to help them. Oftentimes, these families understand that they need to move out, and they eventually do. They are able to find housing, sometimes not in the city, and they have to struggle because it's much more expensive than where they were living before. The Lee family understood too. They had the help of many organizations, but after several months, they weren't able to find any takers for them. I believe they've applied to every affordable housing place in the city and throughout the Bay Area. So finally, they've decided to take a stand. And in fact, they came back to the landlord and said, just one simple request. We don't want to negotiate more compensation. Can you just help us find a place to live? The response was a court action to evict them. Unfortunately, as Supervisor Kim mentioned, the law has an unfair bias, tilted to promote this type of speculative real estate investment. So we did not prevail. The judge basically didn't even give the Lees their day in court. So we are on appeal right now, and we ask the court, until we get an ultimate decision in this case, let the Lees stay. Because otherwise, they could lose their home, their life, even if they won on appeal. The judge wasn't convinced. The judge said, let the eviction proceed, emphasizing the damage that could result from the owner having this business deal fall apart. And so the law is tilted against us, but it is time for change. I was talking to Sarah Short in the Housing Rights Committee, and I think she was recalling when the last time there was an eviction arrest and something like this was during the dot-com boom, just a few years ago. And I think that points out that the lure for this type of excessive taste for developers is cyclical, and we're in the middle of one right now. And so we need to change this policy where our communities, including our long-standing residents, our senior households, our working-class families, are not pushed out and are not made to disappear. We need to change this out-of-sight, out-of-mind policy. And I think we can do this by what I'm judging looking at everyone here.
What we wanted to know when we made this call, we didn't know who was going to come out, right? We know this is a work day. We know that it was very short notice. But we wanted to get a sense of, like, what's the level of concern and outrage in this city. And so really in the last 3 days, this is, you are it. You came out. And this is really, really tremendous. So, you know, I want to first off ask all the organizations here, let's go around and shout out your name, because you're building this movement. This movement starts today. And those of us who've known the Lee family have gotten to know them over the last few weeks and months, recognize this has been a real struggle for them to come to this point. But they decided, and they've been involved. I mean, Mrs. Lee has been out for our rallies. They were out in the Castro. They went to City Hall. And on issues that didn't directly affect them, but they said, look, evictions are a concern for us too. And they came out, and now we're out for them. So I think that's really, you know, how this works. But I think that, you know, I think it's important for us to recognize how hard it is for a working class family, an immigrant family that's, you know, they followed the rules, they followed the law their whole lives, and now, you know, they're looking at the house being taken away from them, and as Ms. Lee said, what else can I do? But I'm gonna stay in my home and protect it. And Mr. Lee, we don't talk about him very much, but Mr. Lee, he's right there. You know, the other day when Ms. Lee said, I'm willing to get arrested, we were at the Presbyterian Church, and then we thought, well, we're surprised. And then, like, we didn't know about Mr. Lee. I said, of course, I'm going with her. So, you know, but let's say, you know, we know the struggle is not just one eviction. We know there are other evictions, and our group, we're just a seed, right? All of us are just a seed. We got to build this larger movement. So we are part of the San Francisco Anti-Displacement Coalition. It's an organization that just formed out of the struggle around to fight condo conversions, and you know, and so we knew that we fought one battle and we won. So we need to fight more battles. We need to hold together. So join us. There's the San Francisco Anti-Displacement Coalition. We're following the proud history of ACT, the Mission Anti-Displacement Coalition, which fought the battle and transformed politics in San Francisco 10 years ago. We're going to do that again, right? We're going to change the city. We're going to change it for all of us. So join us, talk to us, find out when the next meeting is. We're going to make a difference. Now, let me just say one other thing. I'm sorry I'm taking longer, but I just wanted to point this out because you're looking at like, what the heck's going on with this building, right? Well, they're doing a rehab. They're doing a remodel. And, you know, this city has no policy to stop remodels where there are evictions going on. And this city can do it. The city should not be allowing owners to come in and start, you know, their conversion process on top of people's lives. And then, you know, and we need to hold the city accountable. They say they blame the state. It's the Ellis Act. You're sorry.
This horrific tragedy which is happening here today, and it is indeed horrific that this family will be forced out onto the streets. But as others have noted, this is not the only one. We are in the midst of a crisis, an epidemic. Ellis evictions have tripled in the past year. They're at an all-time high for the last 12 years. This is happening all over the city, all over this neighborhood. On the next block up, there's an Ellis eviction. Next block of Larkin, 2 Ellis evictions. Next block of Washington, 1 Ellis eviction. These tenants were bought out after they were threatened with an Ellis eviction. This is happening everywhere. And we need to fight like this every time it happens. And this is what we need to do. And we need to get the politicians to act and the city officials to act, because it is a crisis. And the city can't help foster these evictions. They can't be sending the sheriff to make this happen. And we have to show the sheriff we're not going to let it happen. And Sheriff Berkeley has to adopt a policy that says, I'm not kicking out seniors who have no place to go onto the street. And we need to tell him that when he comes here today, because that is just intolerable to throw the Lees out onto the street and they have nowhere to go.
Yeah, I've got, weed finally killed somebody because he was crushed by a half-ton of marijuana while he was transporting it, so, but he didn't ingest anything. So anyway, that's...
Where did you get that story?
Oh, I just read. Can't you tell my eyes are like this all the time? So, so if we're hemp, I'm just going to wrap up my notes. Hemp is a $500 million industry in California, and it grows 10% every year, which 10% of 500 million is 50 million, right? So 550 million, and then the year after it'll be 600 million. So anyway, yeah. So that's big. And Senator Leno, I'm glad he has faith in Eric Holder's recent statement that the federal government would not interfere with cannabis, with hemp growing in California. So that's what I've got to say about all that. And I want to get to my guests now that have faithfully come to see me.
Better late than never.
Yes, I really am glad you could show up. And I want to introduce John Gullicksen of the No on BNC Waterfront campaign, and he represents what I feel is something worth fighting for is our civil rights, and this is civil rights when they're taking away free space, isn't it? So
that's right.
Can you elaborate about that?
Yeah, I mean, what makes San Francisco more San Francisco than the public space, the waterfront, the place for people for free to recreate and enjoy? And with so many cities around the world, you know, I have family that lived in Miami for a while, so I would fly into Miami from here, and the first thing we do is we'll get in the car and then drive by the wall of condos all on the beach. That's all most of Miami is.
Been there.
Too many waterfronts have sold off the land because it's so much money. What San Francisco has done, at least until now, is drawn a line, a blue line, along our waterfront and said, no tall buildings, at least on the northern waterfront, the ferry building to Fisherman's Wharf. Keep it open. You can build a little bit, but keep height limits low. And if you're going to build something, still allow the public to walk and see the view. But these propositions, Prop B and C, are one developer, a guy named Simon Snellgrove, who has a name made from cartoon villain kind of name, but he's a developer and he's trying to make some money. So he put B on the ballot, and C is really the same thing, to increase the height limits on the waterfront for his project. And it would be one thing if he were doing it to build, you know, a library or a public space, but he's going to build 134 luxury condos, ultra luxury condos. They're going to cost around $5 million each for a 1 or 2 bedroom condo. So if you think most San Franciscans are going to have a chance to enjoy that, then I'd like to know where you get those numbers. I think what it will mean is, you know, the freeway that used to be here for so long, the Embarcadero Freeway, some people remember, some people have just heard about. It used to be about 70 feet high all along most of that part of the waterfront, and when it came down, it really changed it. And now this would take things back. So we're fighting it. We're fighting hard, as hard as we can. Now it's kind of the beauty came back, and now some people want to take it for themselves.
Gosh, I got some notes.
The little punchline that I'm always hearing about it, especially from, you know, sort of some of the progressives that have been shunned for supporting it, is that they've got X number of affordable units. Now, is that affordable or is that low-income units? Because those two things are distinctly different.
That's right. It's actually neither. This project has 0 affordable housing units built as part of it. Not one.
It just goes into
134 all luxury condos. The city's inclusionary housing law, which is probably what the person was referring to, requires all developers to at least pay into a fund if they don't build any. So this developer would have to pay something, but it's so little, it's about 2% of what he's going to sell these condos for. So he's going to sell them for 134 condos, $5 million a piece, $500 million, and he's going to have to put in about $10, $11 million into the fund, which will build a few units maybe someday somewhere else.
Okay, that's an interesting concept, that it's somewhere, someday, somewhere else.
Yeah. With shoddier building materials I've seen the kind of place.
Yeah.
You know, usually located near something toxic.
Right.
Danny's trying to sell it, as you've been hearing. It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
and the devil's advocate thing on it too is that
Yeah.
while he's also going to make this big public space with, you know, availability to everybody and make it sort of like this nice sort of park that everybody can enjoy.
And the logo is for the pro side is it looks like Golden Gate Park on the Embarcadero.
Yeah, yeah.
That actually
That's what I was
is an
talking
image
about.
of
Deconstruct that.
what they've done is their image is is basically a drawing of the park that's there right now. Sue Bierman Park, Ferry Plaza Park, with pretty close to the ferry building, and it's big open space. That's what's there now, and they're trying to make people think they're creating it. All they're going to do is add about a tennis court size space to the other side of this area. There's some open space. They're going to add about a tennis court and sculpt it and make it look nicer. That's it. And 2/3 of what they're claiming is new open space and recreation would be private and closed because they're going to build very high-end recreation health club. They're also claiming that the spaces, the open spaces inside the luxury condo complex with a gate and a guard, they're trying to portray that as open space. And it is open if you can buy a luxury condo or if you're going to visit someone who lives there.
If you have the code, it's open. If you know the secret handshake,
that's right.
You can be
Hi.
a number 2.
You're on the air with SF Liberal Buzz. Caller? You there?
All right.
Let him call back.
So you're right. There's a lot, and obviously the developer, he's already put in $1 million into the campaign. He's going to make a lot of money, but they're running ads on TV, they're sending mailers, and we've got, the good news is people who pay a little attention. I mean, I'm interested in your opinion after having heard a little bit of the other side. People who pay a little attention and read anything realize the reason the Sierra Club is against this, and the Democratic Party is against this, and all the Democratic clubs just about, and neighbor groups, etc., is that building something rather than nothing is fine, and making a little money is fine. But taking away our height and our bay for only luxury condos and maybe a teeny little bit of public benefit is not worth it.